All right, a quick introduction for some of y'all that are new. My name is Chase. I'm a pitcher with the Cubs organization. I finished up in Double-A this year. I run a remote training company with one of my best friends who played with the Phillies. I make content that's insightful into the life of a pro baseball player, parts of my journey, explaining the ins and outs of it, the ups and downs, and then I make content geared to helping other young baseball players and the parents of those young baseball players. This one's going to be catered towards you guys. If your son's not currently getting recruited, he probably doesn't need more exposure. This is one of the biggest traps that I see parents fall into time after time, and it's costing valuable money, time, and it's closing the window of your child's development, and you're focusing not necessarily on things that are going to help him get to where both of you want him to be quicker. You guys have to face it. You're biased towards your children, right? And sometimes that bias can cloud your judgment, and everyone wants what's best for their children. But a lot of these parents are dragging their kid to different showcases when he doesn't have the skill set to make the most value out of those showcases. A lot of this time would be much better spent building up that skill set and then going to one showcase where you're going to drive a lot of attention. One thing I wish I could have done growing up was spend more time dedicated to training, getting in the weight room, getting some direction on what I needed to work on specifically from my body and my delivery and the metrics that I was looking for, maybe adding a new pitch as opposed to just playing these games every weekend. Looking back on it, perhaps if I would have dedicated more time to that development, if my parents would have steered that route a little bit more, perhaps I could have gone to an SEC school. Perhaps I would have had a shot to sign out of high school, maybe have a good NIL deal, something of that nature. I mean, the fact of this is that exposure without development is just an expensive disappointment. Coaches recruit based on skills, not just the number of events that Perfect Game lists your son attending. That's why at Magna Performance, we focus on building college pro level ready pitchers, getting pieces that scouts and college recruiters can see, okay, this will play. And then the piece of the puzzle of getting them seen comes in, which is easy, right? You just find, it doesn't even have to be a huge showcase, but if your son has that factor, he has those skills, he's going to get noticed regardless of what event it is, honestly. And sometimes you don't even need to go to an event. We work with some of the kids that we've had kids commit from just getting in talks with some of the coaches that I played at Oregon State, I played at Cal Poly, and I played at a premier JUCO in Florida. We've had kids commit basically off of our word of mouth, coupled with TrackMan data or velocity data from a couple videos. So these things can happen extremely quickly, and sometimes it doesn't even take going to these showcases for that to happen. This is another little nuanced secret that some of you guys might not know. Sometimes it's almost better to not be seen a ton, because if you can just showcase some of the tools that a coach is looking for or a recruiter at one or two showcases, that's enough to get offers. But sometimes these parents, that they take these kids to so many showcases and then something gets seen that maybe it didn't need to get seen, and it puts off a coach. So it's almost like a scarcity type thing where some of these kids that are able to get seen over and over again, a coach picks up on stuff that might not even be there, and they're like, oh, we're going to pass on this kid. And that's not super common, but it is a reality that I see with some people. So the big three, right? Parents have them a little bit twisted. So a lot of parents think it goes exposure and then opportunity and then development. That's not the case. Development needs to happen, then exposure, then you will get, God willing, an opportunity, and then that opportunity helps you get more development, more exposure, and then another opportunity. But it starts with development. It doesn't start with exposure, and that's key to understand here, because this is extremely valuable time. If your kid's a sophomore in high school, it's extremely valuable time that needs to be utilized correctly, to get the most out of it, to give them the best chance to be as good as they can be, as quick as they can be, which will just set them up to be in a position to make the most out of their potential, and incentivize these coaches to offer them NIL deals, potentially play pro ball, all of these things. Instead of it being like a last minute thing, they'll have a lot more leverage if they can kind of get better quicker versus just playing a ton of games. A lot of times that's not going to help you get to some of these elite tiers. We've had some guys come into our remote program and spend 6 months, be dedicated, work on some of the things, some of the direction that we found during our assessment, and then go get offers because of that without playing in a single showcase until the end of the 6 months. But it's like, oh, how did they get exposure? No one knew who they were in this time. No, they were setting the right foundation so that when it was time to stack the pillars and the beams on top of that foundation, it was sound. At Magna Performance, we've built a legitimate system to go from just good, another run-of-the-mill high school pitcher to legitimately recruitable, legitimate interest from pro scouts. And we do all of this without blowing a ton of money on showcases. And we know these things are expensive. Our program consists of individualized training. It's specifically tailored to each athlete and their individual needs. And then we reassess and readjust. And we have an open line of communication with each of these athletes between myself and Mason. He played for the Phillies. I'm currently with the Chicago Cubs right now, and I'm on my road to the show. I've been in a lot of these kids' shoes, and so I'm able to kind of step back in and help them navigate this process, not just from a training standpoint, but from a mentality standpoint, from just the day-to-day grind, the things that are going to pop into your head, these doubts, these negative thoughts, how to properly manage them to compete at the highest level and give yourself the best shot to continually improve and not get burnt out. So keep some of these things in mind for you parents out there. We obviously know you care deeply about your children, and you're investing money in them to be seen. But a lot of times it's not about being seen. It's about getting ready, preparing, laying the foundation, and then just getting seen once. If your son is serious about being that type of pitcher and not just getting seen, but being extremely prepared for when he does get seen, we have a handful of remote coaching spots open. We've been through this. Combined, we have over 20 years of experience navigating recruiting, talking to different coaches, sifting through if they actually mean what they say. And then on top of that, we have experience at multiple years at the JUCO level, different Power 5 D1s, mid-major D1s. They all come with different nuances. And our entire goal with Magna is just to guide young players through this process as smoothly as possible so they don't have to deal with this stress and anxiety that comes from making the wrong choices, not knowing what choices to make and not knowing what choices are the best choices in terms of just recruiting in this entire process and the draft. It can be extremely complex, and we are here to be a resource for these kids that we train, not just writing great programs specific to them, but on the mental side and on the decision-making side outside of the diamond. This isn't just training, it's a full transformation, it's a full revamp to help your son come back next offseason a completely different pitcher and unlock those new opportunities. If you want to learn more, look in the description. We have the links to some of our Magna resources. The Chase Pitching email that specific email if you're interested in remote coaching. I'll get back to you, fill you in on our availability and how we go about things. Like I said, all those links are below. Let's make sure that your son is not just seen, but he's ready.